There is something that happens to your brain when you realize you're being followed. It doesn't happen all at once. That's the thing nobody tells you. It's not a switch that flips. It's a slow accumulation, a suspicion that feels paranoid at first, then uncomfortable, then undeniable, then terrifying. And by the time you're certain, you've already been in it for miles. I want to tell you about a woman named Sasha. 26 years old, drove alone, made all the right decisions, or tried to, and spent 47 miles on a highway in rural Montana, absolutely certain that the black pickup truck in her rearview mirror was going to kill her. She's still not sure she was wrong. It was late September, and Sasha was driving back from a week-long camping trip in Glacier National Park. She'd done the trip alone, which was not unusual for her. She was the kind of person who had learned in her mid-20s that she preferred her own company in the wilderness. No compromises on pace, no negotiating campsites, no managing anyone else's comfort. She'd spent 7 days hiking and reading and cooking simple food over a camp stove, and she was deeply, pleasantly tired in the way that only a week completely outside gets you. Her route home to Billings took her east on US 2. A 2-lane highway that runs along the southern edge of the High Line, through small towns spaced 40 and 50 miles apart, with nothing between them but grassland and sky and the occasional grain elevator appearing on the horizon like a landmark from a different century. She stopped for gas in a town called Shelby at 6:15 in the evening. It was still light when she pulled in. By the time she'd filled the tank, used the bathroom, bought a coffee and a bag of pretzels from the attendant behind the bulletproof partition, the sky had shifted from orange to the deep, saturated blue that precedes full dark in the high plains, the kind of blue that looks beautiful for about 10 minutes and then becomes something else entirely. She got back in her car, started the engine, checked her mirrors out of habit. There was a truck parked at the far pump. Black or very dark, hard to tell in the fading light. A full-size pickup, the kind that's common enough in rural Montana to be practically invisible. The driver was not visible. The engine was not running, as far as she could tell. She pulled out of the station and headed east on US 2. She did not think about the truck again for almost 20 miles. The thing about US 2 east of Shelby is that there is nothing. Not rural nothing, where there are still farmhouses set back from the road with their yard lights burning. Real nothing. The kind of landscape where the land is so flat and the sky is so enormous that your headlights feel inadequate, like you're holding a candle in a cathedral. Other drivers become significant. The appearance of headlights in either direction is an event, something to register, because the alternative is the absolute and total dark of a place where human beings are genuinely sparse. So when Sasha registered the headlights in her rearview mirror, she registered them the way you register any car on an empty night highway, as information. Another person out here, going the same direction. She noted them and returned her attention to the road. 10 minutes passed. She glanced at the mirror again. The headlights were still there. Same position, same distance behind her. She was doing 72, which meant whoever was behind her was also doing 72 precisely, not pulling closer, not falling back. She noted this and did not think much of it. People cruise at consistent speeds. It's what people do. Another 10 minutes. She tapped the brakes lightly, just to flash her brake lights, a signal. I see you back there. The truck, and she was thinking of it as the truck now, the connection to the gas station forming unconsciously, the truck maintained its distance exactly. She sped up to 78. The truck matched it. She slowed to 68. The truck slowed. She is very precise about the order of her realizations when she describes this. The first realization was this vehicle is matching my speed deliberately. The second realization, which came about 30 seconds after the first, was I have been aware of this vehicle for 20 miles and it has never changed its distance behind me. Not once. Not by a single car length. She tightened her hands on the wheel.
She made a decision. She was approximately 15 miles from Havre, the largest town between Shelby and her eventual turn south toward Billings. Population 9,000. Enough people, enough light, enough civilization to think clearly. She would exit into Havre. She would see what the truck did. She drove those 15 miles watching her mirror more than she watched the road ahead. The truck never varied. Steady, deliberate, patient. There is something uniquely disturbing about patience in something you're afraid of. Fear wants its object to be erratic, visible, explicable. Patience implies intelligence. Patience implies a plan. The lights of Havre appeared on the horizon, first as a glow, then as discrete points, then as the recognizable geometry of a small city at night. She felt something release slightly in her chest. She took the first exit. She watched the mirror. The truck's headlights did not follow her off the highway. They continued east, steady speed, disappeared into the darkness beyond the exit ramp. Sasha sat in the deceleration lane for a moment, engine running, watching the empty highway. Gone. She exhaled so hard her shoulders dropped 2 inches. She told herself, "See, paranoia. Just a car going the same direction on the only road east. You scared yourself into a 20-mile spiral over nothing." She drove into Havre, found a diner, ordered coffee and a piece of pie she didn't particularly want, and sat at a window table for 45 minutes, watching the street, letting her heartbeat normalize. At 8:30, she got back on US 2, heading east. She watched the road. She told herself she was fine. She was on the highway for less than 3 minutes before she saw the headlights. Same distance, same position, same absolute, unwavering steadiness in her mirror. The truck had waited. Right now, wherever you're listening to this, I need you to do something. Hit like. Leave a comment telling me what you would have done when those headlights reappeared, because I've thought about this story for a long time and I still don't know the right answer. Stay with me. It gets worse. This is the moment, Sasha told me, when fear became something different. Up to this point, even during the matching speed, even during the 20 miles of identical distance, there had been a part of her brain generating alternative explanations. Coincidence, same destination, another cautious driver on a dark road. The part of the brain that does not want to be the person who panics over nothing, who makes a scene, who overreacts. That part went quiet when she saw the headlights reappear. Because the truck had not simply happened to re-enter the highway behind her. The truck had waited at Havre, had either stayed on the highway and slowed, or had exited and waited, and had re-engaged her specific vehicle, her specific taillights, on a highway where other cars existed. It had made a choice. She had become, in that moment, absolutely certain of something she could not prove. The person in that truck knew exactly who she was. Not her name, not her history, but her car, her direction, her. She called 911. The dispatcher was calm and professional and asked her to describe the vehicle. Black or dark-colored full-size pickup truck. No distinguishing features visible in the dark. She had not seen the license plate, she hadn't thought to look at the gas station, and since then the truck had always been behind her, its plate invisible in the dark. The dispatcher told her to stay on the line, told her to continue toward the next town, Malta, approximately 50 miles east, and told her not to exit the highway until she was in Malta and could see lights and people. Sasha stayed on the highway. The truck stayed behind her. The dispatcher's voice was her only company for the next 40 minutes. She has described that voice, patient, steady, repeatedly confirming, "Yes, I'm still here, keep driving," as the thing that kept her from making a decision that might have gotten her killed. Because there were moments, several of them, when she wanted to stop. The human mind, under sustained threat, generates irrational options. Stop the car, pull over, get out and confront it. Anything to end the unbearable, sustained tension of waiting for something that might be coming. Sasha said the urge to stop was almost physical, like a hand pushing against her chest from inside, pushing toward the brake. The dispatcher's voice was the counterweight. Keep driving. Don't stop. You're doing the right thing. Keep driving. She kept driving. At mile 31 of the pursuit, Sasha was counting, had been counting since Havre. She did something the dispatcher had not told her to do. She took an exit. Not an exit for a town, a highway junction exit, the kind that leads to a county road going north or south, with nothing at the top of the ramp except a stop sign and the dark Montana prairie. No services, no people. She did this because she needed to know something. She took the exit ramp, came to the stop sign at the top, and stopped. She left her lights on. She sat at the junction, engine running, and watched the highway below. The truck did not take the exit. Its headlights appeared at the base of the ramp, traveled the length of it at highway speed, and then continued east on US 2. She watched those headlights go. She sat at the top of that empty county road junction and watched it go, and she understood what she had just seen with complete clarity. The truck had slowed because it had realized it had lost her. It was looking for where she'd gone, and then it had made a choice to continue east, to wait. She re-entered the highway. She told the dispatcher what had happened. She could hear something shift in the dispatcher's voice. Not alarm exactly, but the sound of a professional recalibrating, moving this call into a different category. There's a unit heading eastbound on US 2 from Malta. They should intercept you in approximately 20 minutes. Stay on the road. 20 minutes. 47 miles since Shelby. 16 more to Malta. She drove.
She saw the police unit's headlights coming toward her at mile 43. The cruiser passed her going westbound, then U-turned on the empty highway and came up behind her. And for one terrible second, before she recognized the light bar, her body responded to the headlights in her mirror the same way it had been responding for the past hour. The lurch of adrenaline, the tightening of the hands. Then the cruiser's amber marker lights came on. Not the full light bar, just the ambers, a signal. And she knew what she was looking at, and she cried. Not dramatically, just her eyes filling and the release of something that had been held rigid for 47 miles. The cruiser followed her into Malta. She pulled into the lot of an open gas station and parked under the brightest light she could find. The deputy, she describes him as young, maybe 25, with a careful, professional manner, took her statement in the lot. He had already called in the description of the truck. He told her there were 2 other units on US 2 heading west from Malta who were looking for a dark, full-size pickup. She sat on the hood of her car and watched the highway and drank a bottle of water the deputy had gotten from the station's cooler. 20 minutes later, one of the westbound units reported finding a dark pickup truck pulled off the highway 8 miles west of Malta. Parked on the shoulder, engine off, no one inside. Abandoned. Sasha asked the deputy how long it would have taken someone to pull over, get out of the truck, and walk off the highway into the dark. The deputy looked at her for a moment before answering. He said, "Not long." The truck had been stolen. Reported 2 days earlier from a town in Idaho, 400 miles west of where it now sat on the shoulder of US 2 in rural Montana. The plates had been swapped. The plates on the truck when they found it were from a different vehicle entirely, a detail that told the investigators this had been deliberate preparation rather than impulsive theft. Inside the truck, they found a sleeping bag, some food, and a hand-drawn map. The map showed the US 2 corridor with several towns marked. Havre was circled. Malta was circled. The town of Glasgow, 100 miles further east, was circled. They also found, in the glove box, photographs. I want to be careful about how I describe these. The details were shared with me by a source close to the original investigation, and some specifics have been withheld from public record. What I can tell you is this. The photographs were of women, taken from a distance without their knowledge. Some appeared to be taken from a moving vehicle. At least one appeared to have been taken at a gas station. The deputy later told Sasha that the gas station photograph, the quality of the light, the pump configuration, appeared to be consistent with the station in Shelby where she had stopped. He told her this carefully. He told her what it implied just as carefully. She had been selected in Shelby. The gas station stop, the 6:15 fill-up she'd almost skipped because she thought she had enough fuel to make it to Havre, had been the moment. The person in that truck had been watching the station, or watching the highway, or had been at the station for some other reason, and had made a choice when she pulled in. The deputy asked her if she had noticed anyone watching her at the gas station. She thought for a long time, and then she said, "There was a truck at the far pump. I didn't see anyone in it." The deputy nodded. "He was watching from inside the cab," he said. "With the lights off, you wouldn't have seen him." Sasha looked at the highway for a moment. "He was already there when I pulled in," she said. "Yes," the deputy said. "He was waiting." The deputy didn't answer that one. The person who had been driving that truck was never found. A multi-state investigation followed. Idaho and Montana State Police, the FBI field office in Great Falls, consulted on the photographs. The truck's route was partially reconstructed through gas station footage and highway cameras. The driver had been traveling east on US 2 for at least 2 days before the night he followed Sasha. He had stopped at 3 different gas stations in that time. At 2 of them, security footage showed him watching other vehicles, specifically watching women traveling alone, before they left and he did not follow. Which means Sasha was a specific choice, not the first opportunity. Which means whatever criteria he was applying, she met them in a way the others hadn't. She has thought about that for 6 years. She has never been able to identify what made her different, what made her the one he followed out of Shelby when he hadn't followed the others. She told me she's asked herself this so many times that the question has become something she's almost made peace with. Almost. "I think," she said, "it might just be the timing, the light, the way I walked back to the car, something completely arbitrary that I'll never know, and he probably couldn't articulate either." She paused. "And I think that's actually the worst answer, because it means it could have been anyone. It almost was someone else." She looked at her hands. "It almost wasn't me." She said that last sentence very quietly, and I understood what she meant. There's a version of that night where she doesn't stop in Shelby, where she fills up in Havre instead, where the truck at the far pump watches her pull in and watches her pull out, and that's all. There's a version where she never becomes the person telling this story. She lives there sometimes, in that other version. She still drives alone. She was very deliberate about this when she told me. She said she refused to let what happened restructure her life around fear. She still takes road trips. She still camps solo. She still drives US 2 when her route requires it. But there are things she does differently. She never stops for gas after 5 p.m. if she can avoid it. If she has to, she parks directly under the brightest light in the station. She locks the car while she pumps, and she does not make eye contact with anyone she doesn't have to. She has a She drives with her phone mounted and charged and mapped at all times. And she has a rule she said she will never violate as long as she drives alone. If a vehicle has been behind her for more than 15 miles on an empty road, maintaining a consistent distance, she takes the next exit regardless of where it goes. She sits at the top of the ramp. She watches. Most of the time, she said, the car just goes past, normal, going somewhere else. She looked at me. But if it slows down, she said, I am already calling." She said it without drama, just a fact, a line she has drawn between the version of herself that night in Montana and the version that exists now, a line made of protocol and preparation and the knowledge of what it feels like when the distance in the rearview mirror never changes. "You can't unknow that feeling," she said. "Once you know what it feels like to be followed, really followed, not imagined, not paranoid, but actually deliberately pursued by someone who has chosen you, you can't go back to not checking your mirrors." She smiled, not happily. I check my mirrors a lot. I've thought about Sasha's story for a long time. What strikes me most, more than the truck, more than the photographs, more than the stolen plates and the circled towns on the hand-drawn map, is the gas station. 6:15 p.m. She almost didn't stop. She thought she had enough fuel. She stopped anyway because she didn't want to risk running low on an empty stretch of highway, which is exactly the kind of cautious, sensible decision that people who drive alone in rural areas are supposed to make. The cautious decision put her in the wrong place at the wrong time. The reckless decision, pushing through to Havre, would have kept her safe. There is no lesson in that. I've tried to find one and I can't. The universe was not making a point about preparedness or caution or anything else. It was just the 6:15 timing of a gas stop and a man sitting in a dark cab at the far pump with the engine off, watching. What I keep thinking about instead is the exits. The places where Sasha could have pulled over and didn't. The place where she did pull over, the county road junction, and what she saw when the truck slowed on the highway below her. The deliberate intelligence of that slowing, the recalculation, the decision to continue east and wait. That is not impulsive behavior. That is not opportunistic. That is practiced. And practiced means it had happened before. The photographs in the glove box suggest it had happened before. The circled towns suggest it had happened before, which means somewhere on the route between wherever he started and the shoulder of US 2 where they found the empty truck are answers to questions nobody has been able to ask yet. The driver was never identified, never found. Sasha drove home to Billings the next morning, in daylight, with a deputy escort for the first 40 miles. She checked her mirrors the entire way. She still does. If Sasha's story made you look at your rearview mirror differently, even for a second, I want to know. Drop "I check my mirrors" in the comments if this got to you, and tell me, what mile do you think you would have realized? Because most people I've told this to say mile 5, but when I push them, really push them, most of them admit they probably would have told themselves it was nothing until mile 20, until Havre, until the lights came back, until it was undeniable. If you want more stories like this, not supernatural, not monsters, just the specific, real, documented horror of what people do to other people, subscribe. Because next week I have a story that starts with a camping trip and ends with a question that a sheriff's deputy has never been able to answer. And if you're driving somewhere alone tonight, long stretch of highway, dark sky, one pair of headlights in your mirror, count the miles. And if that number starts getting high, call someone right now. Don't wait until you're certain, because by the time you're certain, you've already been in it too long. Drive safe.